Welcome to Connecticut. This is a podcast. My name is Ken Tuccio. You could follow me on Twitter at RhymesWithPen. And this is episode number 9 of the Welcome to Connecticut podcast. And we've got a good one lined up today, a really fun interview. Adam Shefts with the Northeast Paranormal Investigations Society is the guest on today's show. We talk about a whole ton of stuff related to the paranormal, ghosts, hauntings, all that fun stuff. Adam Shefts, the founder of the Northeast Paranormal Investigations Society. Try saying that 5 times fast. He is the guest on the podcast today. And the interview you're about to hear is actually the second go-around at me sitting down with Adam. Previously, Adam, myself, and his partner with NPIS, Mark, we sat down and had a really good conversation, but I made the mistake, and this is totally my fault, of setting up the interview in a Starbucks, which is not the smartest place to set up an interview. So when I came home and I listened to the rough cut of the interview, the rough cut of the show, I realized that throughout the entire conversation, there was a ridiculous Jason Mraz soundtrack in the background. Because, you know, being the genius that I am, I picked a table right next to the speakers to record an audio interview. And, you know, obviously you can't talk ghosts or paranormal investigations with a song like I'm Yours playing in the background. So I told Adam that, we had to reschedule, we had to re-record, and he was super cool about it. And we picked a Saturday. He came down to my place, we sat down, we had a really fun conversation. And I know that the paranormal is the sort of thing that a lot of folks are skeptical about. It's the kind of thing that a lot of people probably roll their eyes at. Personally, I have always had an interest in the paranormal. When I was younger, I would regularly read books about hauntings and ghost sightings, and even up until a few years ago, I would regularly watch TV shows like Ghost Hunters and, you know, all those different ghost and haunting related shows that were all over the place. I wouldn't say I'm a huge enthusiast when it comes to the paranormal, but I am the sort of guy who will sit back and watch a Discovery Channel show or a TLC show about some sort of paranormal haunting if it's on. It's good programming to me, and it's entertaining to me. And overall, ghosts and the paranormal, it's an interest. It's something I find cool, and that's why we had these people on the show. That's the reason we had Adam on the show. My wife is the one who actually had the idea about trying to find some local paranormal investigators for an episode of the show because she thought it might be interesting, and I agreed with her. And I did a little bit of research, and I found Adam, and I found the NPIS team, and the thing that really struck me about Adam was that it was obvious that he and his team took all of this seriously. He was treating this like a business. He wasn't some kid with a handheld microphone and a GoPro camera walking around abandoned buildings in New Haven trying to find ghosts. He and his team seemed to genuinely care about the historical aspect of the places they investigated and seemed to genuinely care about the clients that they dealt with. To them, this wasn't a joke. To them, this was a passion and something they took seriously, and I think that's pretty cool. And I think it's pretty cool that they're local to the state. I figured that most people were probably like me. They didn't know that paranormal investigators even existed in Connecticut. They probably thought paranormal investigation and immediately thought of TV shows on sci-fi and, you know, things like that. They thought it was probably national type things. They probably didn't even know that there are professional groups like NPIS doing this right here in Connecticut. But there is. And it was cool talking to them, and I think you're going to dig it. So here we go. Here's my sit-down with Adam Shefts, the founder of the Northeast Paranormal Investigations Society. My guest this week on Welcome to Connecticut. So we're finally getting to do this again after last time's horrible experience.
Great to be here again. Thank you.
So for people who are kind of curious what we're talking about, we tried doing this, I think like 2-3 weeks ago. We did it in a Starbucks, which was an absolutely stupid move. And I get back and I'm listening to the episode and we have like a jazz soundtrack and a Jason Mraz soundtrack in the background the entire interview. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh, well, that's not going to work. We can't do that. We're not going to talk about ghosts with wordplay in the background. But all right, so Northeast Paranormal. That's your deal.
Yeah, Northeast Paranormal Investigations Society.
You could hold the mic a little closer to yourself.
All right.
I'm giving you instructions as we go.
All right, no problem. Hey, I'm new to this, so I need some guidance.
Yeah, so how does someone get into paranormal investigation? Was it just something that, you were interested in ghosts and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely the curiosity factor. For myself personally, children have active imaginations. And as a child, I was afraid of spirits. Never had any reason to be, never had any experiences. But as I got older, it became more of a curiosity, what is there to be afraid of? And then it became more of an interest as I got even older.
Was it like monster under the bed type fear? You're like, hey, I don't want a ghost to come in.
Well, for me, it was actually an alligator under the bed. I don't know where that came from. No idea. Never a monster.
Was your bedroom in the bayou?
I don't know where that came from. But no, never anything about monsters, ghosts, and closets or anything. Just, my wild imagination getting the better of me. There is a saying that the mind is the scariest place to walk through. And that's true. That's true. You can definitely freak yourself out.
So how do you overcome the fear?
Just becoming educated on what you are afraid of.
So you just read up on ghosts, you read up on the paranormal, and just...
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, paranormal books are going to paint the a spooky effect with the paranormal, scary ghost stories. But when you start investigating and you actually document spirit activity and you start having some personal experiences, you realize there's really not much to be afraid of. Most of the things out there that you may come in contact with in this field is not dangerous, it's not scary, it's not going to hurt you.
See, I've always been fascinated by the unexplained, like the unknown, like ghosts and aliens and, even like Bigfoot. I think I'm the only one in the world who actually watched that. Did you ever watch the TV show Dean Cain and the $1 Million Bigfoot Bounty?
You know what? I may have seen an episode.
I don't know why. I actually DVR'd it and I watched every episode. It was the most embarrassing piece of television you could ever see. But I've always had an interest in that sort of stuff. And, I got more interested in paranormal investigation, and I think most people did, from the show Ghost Hunters. And you and I talked about this a little bit in the interview that will never be aired, but Ghost Hunters, I was huge into that show at first.
Mm-hmm.
When it first came on, I was fascinated by it. Mm-hmm. And the thing that fascinated me was that they had some episodes where they didn't find anything and didn't have any proof or anything that they could even show clients that even remotely looked like a ghost. Yeah. And to me, that added to the legitimacy of the show. Mm-hmm. I'm saying to myself, they're not doing this for TV. They're telling the truth. Hey, we didn't find anything. I thought that made it cool, and it made it more important when they actually did find stuff. And then as the years went on, that show became kind of like a caricature of itself. I remember I stopped watching after a Halloween episode where I want to say it was Grant was walking, and all of a sudden, in the perfect camera angle, you see his collar getting lifted, and it was the fakest thing I ever saw. And then I went on message board forums the next day, and people in your field were just going nuts about it, it's bullshit. I mean, Ghost Hunters, did that kind of help? Does that help legitimize your field, or does it do more harm than good?
Well, that episode, that Halloween episode, I do remember watching that myself. And yeah, it was a little disappointing to see some things that occurred on there. But in the paranormal field in general, no matter if it's television or any team's evidence, it's so hard to determine what is authentic and what is recreated or, man-made. Unless you're actually there in that moment and you know exactly what had taken place. Yes, in certain television episodes, some things are, created, man-made. And there's a lot of man-made creations on the internet. So when you see this incredible piece of evidence on the internet, you want to believe it's authentic, but at the same time, you have to, keep the skepticism also. Because it is very easy to manipulate footage and audio.
Well, the internet has allowed anyone with Photoshop to be able to make
it. Exactly. So unless you're actually there and you know that nothing man-made occurred at that time evidence was captured, it's very hard to determine, what is legitimate out there right now.
Okay, well, your field in general, the paranormal investigation field, it's probably no secret to you. You probably have some people who probably will see the title of this episode and listen to this and like laugh and be like, "Oh God, they're searching for ghosts." Do you deal with a lot of blowback from people who? I mean, you take what you do very seriously. You're passionate about it, and that's awesome. There are some people who probably think it's a joke. There's some people who don't take it seriously. I mean, do you run into that a lot?
Oh, occasionally, on our Facebook page, we post evidence every once in a while that we capture from investigations, and some of the evidence is incredible. Really, it has gotten some blowback, some of the things that we post, because it is such good EVP that we put up there.
EVP is the
electronic voice phenomenon. It's the voice of a spirit captured on audio that's not heard by the human ear at the time it occurs. So yeah, we've had people say, "Oh, this is faked. You guys, you're phonies." But it's not the case. But everyone is entitled to their opinion. And again, if you're not actually there while the evidence was captured, it can be difficult to believe.
What do you think has made it more socially acceptable as time goes on?
Because the paranormal is so big in the media today. I mean, you turn on any channel on TV, A&E, Travel Channel, what have you. There's always a commercial for a paranormal show. Paranormal news is on the internet. It's on the radio. Everywhere you turn, it's there. It's hard to get away from today. So people are more inclined to talk about it and not feel so.
It's basically exposure.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I remember when I was a kid, I had to. I mean, like I said, I was interested in it, and I was interested in aliens and UFOs and all that crazy stuff. And the only thing I had access to is I would go to the library, like the Ansonia Library, and I would rent this. I'd take out the same books over and over and over again. But now, like you said, like Sci-Fi has a bunch of shows.
Yeah.
Travel Channel. So I mean, more exposure. I think a lot of people come out of the closet about it.
Yeah.
So how did you start NPIS? How did you decide? You know what? I'm going to form an organization. I'm going to try to do this legitimately.
Mm-hmm. Well, I started investigating with a Connecticut team years ago, and that team did mostly private residence cases, people dealing with, I don't want to use the word demonic, but negative entities.
Do you not want to deal with negative entities?
Well, basically, my team's goal now is to document history, so to speak. We just want to deal with the historical aspect of the paranormal. Mm-hmm. So we go into historic properties and try to document evidence that we can connect with the history of that location. What this previous team did that I was with is they were involved with exorcisms. So they would go in. Yeah, no, it's crazy.
Is that still actually a thing, like exorcisms?
Yeah, it is. It's not something I personally would want to get involved with. It is dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. But that's what that team did. So, we did some investigations of venues, public venues, but we did mostly investigations of private residences with people claiming that they were being possessed. A lot of teams out there claim that they can help people.
Okay.
But you have to be wary of certain teams. You have to do your research and really interview the team as much as they're going to interview you before they come out and try to help you. Lots of teams get caught up in the excitement of the paranormal, and especially the negative side of it, because of what you see on the shows today. Mm-hmm. And they enjoy the idea of trying to help people.
Okay.
But if they don't know what they're dealing with, it could make the matter worse.
Okay. So it could just be snake oil salesmen, or it could just be people who are a little too ambitious.
It could.
Okay. All right. So enough about exercise. So you were interested. You started the NPIS.
Yeah. I wanted to have a team because I love history. Everyone on the team loves history. We wanted to form a team that just really focuses on the history of certain locations, and we try to document anyone who may still be present in spirit form in these historical locations. And it's basically, we want to document history long after history has been made.
Okay. So how do you, if I wanted to start an intramural softball team, I could probably put an ad on Craigslist, and I'll probably get a bunch of results. Mm-hmm. How do you find people who have similar interests in the paranormal and decide, let's all get together and let's start conducting paranormal investigations?
Well, it started out with just some friends
who
had similar interests in both history and the paranormal. So, there were 3 of us to start. And we found that we were actually documenting some pretty interesting evidence on these investigations. And we wanted to bring some more people onto the team who had specific skills. who may have skills in web design, social media, who can sort of get the team name out there, and in doing so, open some more doors for us to get into better places to investigate. So, that's what's happened. We do have a website, northeastparanormal.org. If anyone is interested in joining the team or just, wanted to come along as a guest, we do have a tab on the website called Contact Us. If you scroll over the Contact Us tab, there's all details underneath that.
All right, so in the beginning, you have this group, you have a group of people who are interested in doing this. How do you start getting your first couple cases? Are you just cold calling places, or are you just going anywhere that you could possibly go?
Pretty much. What I did is I had kept in touch with some contacts that I worked with from the team I was previously with.
Okay.
And I contacted them, explained to them who I was, that I now have my own team, and we'd love to come in and investigate again. And most people were very open to it. And then, of course, those people know other people who know other people, and it just, kind of snowballs. And you get into places that you didn't think you could get into just by, knowing somebody. But it is a lot of cold calling. We do have a team researcher who sends out mass emails to historical societies and properties all over the Northeast. And, we do get a good number of responses back from them.
So are you dealing with people who, I would have to assume if you're cold calling someplace that has historical significance in Connecticut, and you want to investigate them, you have to get someone on the phone who is not completely shut off from the paranormal. You can't have someone who's
That's true.
Someone who's like my now deceased grandmother who probably would have laughed you out of the room. So are you, you're basically getting, for lack of a better term, are you getting lucky? Like, hey, I'm finding someone who's really interested in this as well, or?
I think luck may have had a part in the beginning.
Okay.
But now we send everyone to go check our website before they make a decision about letting us in, so that they can see that we are legitimate, we are professional, and they can see the historical organizations that we've worked with to make themselves feel a little more at ease with working with us. If they need references, I'll send them all the references they want all day long.
Okay.
Whatever makes them feel better about letting us in.
Okay. So walk me through a typical investigation. Walk me through, let's not do the cold calling because I'm pretty sure I know how that goes.
Okay,
but
yeah.
Okay, so it's a Saturday night. I'm ready to investigate a house. What is the process that you guys are going through?
Okay, so basically we arrive, we set up the equipment. It takes about an hour. We set up audio, video equipment all around the location.
How much equipment do you guys have?
We have 16 DVR cameras, which basically...
Jesus
I know.
Christ.
But yeah, we have 16 DVR cameras, basically that monitor with all the split screens.
Okay.
And so we set those cameras up around the location. We set up audio. We have a number of audio recorders. And we carry energy detecting meters with us, EMF meters.
Okay.
So we carry those around. We have the knowledge of the history of the location, so we try to conduct EVP sessions using that knowledge and try to directly communicate with any presences that may be...
So do you have a game plan in place? Are you like a football coach where you're like, okay, from 9 to 10 we're doing this, 10 to 11 we're doing this, or is it basically you're winging it?
Sometimes there's a game plan involved. We do split up into teams of 2 or 3, depending on how many investigators we have that particular night. And we'll go around. One team will start on the second floor, one will start on the first floor. But as you may be aware, in the paranormal, things can happen at any moment that can throw you off.
What is
your
something?
plan.
What is something that's thrown you off?
Being touched, hearing a crashing sound.
Okay.
Seeing a shadow, and that'll just like, whoa, everyone, let's just, focus on this area right now. There's some activity going on here, and we've had instances where everyone did gather together, and we tried to all, as a group, communicate with the spirit that we know we just experienced.
How tough is it to keep your head straight when you feel yourself getting touched? Because like my wife can't watch like the Amityville Horror without not being able to sleep that night. How do you you suddenly get touched on the back or you hear a loud noise. For most people, that would shake them up. Is it just kind of like you get callous to it after a while?
Well, we do look for members who are not going to scream and run out of the room.
That's probably not a good thing for an investigation.
Well, it's not professional. We're working with professional organizations.
Yes.
And we want to remain professional.
Okay.
So we need people who are going to be level-headed and not freak out. And if they get touched or they have an experience, they'll deal with it calmly.
Okay.
Of course, there's going to be moments of excitement where, oh my God, what was that?
Okay.
But, you know, you got to get back on track quickly. And
Level-headed, just
yeah,
keep it going.
exactly.
What are some rules for the investigation? Is there like a guidebook, like an NPIS guidebook? These are things you can do. These are things you can't do.
Definitely flying off the handle at the sensation of being touched or having some kind of personal experiences. You know, you got to remain level-headed to some degree. No smoking on investigations, no drinking on investigations. Most of these locations, these historical locations, don't allow eating or drinking anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all about, you know, respecting the property, respecting the people who work for the property, and respecting those who have passed on that you're trying to communicate with.
What was, give me an example of like a personal experience you've had, something that shook you up, like a good story.
I think every member has had some situation, some experience. And I know Mark, who is not here today, but he told you last time.
Mark was here for the Jason Mraz episode that we
Yes,
can't air.
yes. You know, he had an experience at Phillips Manor Hall in Yonkers, New York, where he was in the basement trying to communicate with the spirit, and he asked for the spirit to repeat a knocking sound, and that spirit responded with, "Stay the F out of here, you're going to piss me off." And that...
Did you hear that? Like, is that one of those things you heard on the recording, or was it something you heard audibly when you were there?
Not as it occurred, not audibly. It was on the recording.
Oh, wow.
And it's actually on the website.
Okay.
All the evidence we capture is on the website.
So when you hear that kind of audio, that audio example, one thing I learned from my study of the Ghost Hunters TV show is you never, if I was a ghost hunter and I heard something over, you know, an EVP session or something along those lines, I should not tell you what I think I heard. I should basically play it for you, and you come to your own conclusion. So you guys played that separately, and you each heard the exact same thing.
Yes. There's 3 different forms of EVP. There's 3 different classes: Class A, Class B, and Class C.
Okay.
Class A is crystal clear EVP. Everyone hears the same exact thing. Class B is somewhat clear, but everyone has, or some people have different variations of what they hear. Class C is just, it's so light or so garbled that nobody can make anything out of it.
So it's just static, basically.
It could be a whisper, but it could be so inconclusive as to what it's saying. No one can really hear it clearly enough to really decipher what is being said.
So when you have something that's like a Class A, and you're investigating a historical place in Connecticut, what is normally the reaction of your contact in that place when you're showing them this evidence and you're like, "Hey, listen to this"? I mean, are they scared? Are they excited?
Shocked. They're shocked. We just did an investigation for the Milford Historical Society of the Eels Stowe House. And one of our investigators, Jessica, she asked, "Is anybody in here?" And of course, no one heard anything at the time it occurred. But on the audio recording, you hear in a whisper the name James. So I sent this...
she said, "Is anyone in here?" And he said, "James."
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And so we sent this spiritual voice, this EVP, over to the vice president of the Milford Historical Society to see if she can dig up any information about anyone named James who may be associated with the Eels or Stowe's family or the property itself. So I'm still waiting for the results of that.
So most of the time when you have that kind of a result, do you find that it matches up historically with the place that you...
Surprisingly, yes.
What's a good example?
Perfect example, actually, would be the Butler McCook House in Hartford, Connecticut.
Okay.
There is a room in the Butler McCook House called the Mary Sheldon Room, and Mary Sheldon was a relative by marriage to the McCook family. And we were, actually, Mark and I were in her room, and Barnaby, another investigator of ours. We were in her room, and she passed away in the late 1800s. But we were going through her diary that she kept with entries dating back to the 1850s. And we were just skimming through it, and we didn't hear it at the time, but on audio, crystal clear, Class A EVP, this female voice comes through very loud. "Get out of here, it's not your book."
Oh, really?
Crystal clear.
Wow.
Yeah. So I brought the evidence to the Historical Society in Hartford, and they heard the EVP. They were floored by it. And they gave me a little bit of history about who Mary Sheldon was, and she was not a very well-liked individual. She had a very short temper, very combative, didn't have many friends, never married, reclusive. She was very possessive of her privacy and her personal belongings. So the fact that we were going through her personal belongings and we got scolded by this spirit who we assume could be Mary Sheldon, it's just fascinating to be able to tie that to the history, to tie, the evidence captured with the history of that location.
Is that the kind of thing that draws out spirits? Like when you just, like, from once again, my knowledge of ghost hunters,
Yeah.
I know like a lot of times they investigated cases where they knocked down the previous house and built a new one, or they were remodeling a room or something like that. When you're disturbing something that has probably been there for 50, 100, 150 years, is that something that kind of rallies spirits up, that gets them excited, I guess, for lack of a better term?
That's a theory. That's definitely a theory. I mean, if someone came into your home and started renovating and knocking it down and you were still here, even in spirit
That's
form,
what my cats are doing.
you'd be pissed too.
My cats are running around knocking things down.
So, that definitely is one of the theories, is that renovation, construction, remodeling it can increase activity.
Disturbing things that are in place, though, is that seen as disrespectful?
I tend to think it could be, especially cemeteries. You're disturbing, tombstones. There's been a lot of vandalization with tombstones lately, which we don't investigate cemeteries, by the way.
There's been vandalization of tombstones in Connecticut?
Oh, yeah.
Like by less legit groups?
Oh, not groups, just individuals out to cause trouble.
Just high school kids who have nothing to do.
Much,
I'm going to go destroy a tombstone.
Yeah, but yeah, we just stick mostly with actual locations. But
why don't you investigate cemeteries?
Well, we like to be able to connect the evidence captured with the history of a location, and you can't really do that in a cemetery. You can't say, hey, I have knowledge of so-and-so, of John Smith, so let me go to John Smith's grave and see if I can, communicate with him. There's energy all over cemeteries. You don't know if you're getting John Smith or whoever else may be there.
I got to assume it's probably a lot more difficult to get like clear audio when you're outside.
It is. And also, I mean, for me personally, I can't speak for anybody else, but for me personally, I just find it disrespectful to be walking among those who have passed just for the chance to capture evidence. Most people, when they go into cemeteries, it's for entertainment purposes only. Mm-hmm. And I just find that disrespectful to be literally walking on those who have passed for your own entertainment in hopes of capturing something.
Yeah, I mean, because it's loved ones and it's things like that. I mean, and you guys are investigating it for the historical aspect.
Exactly.
Do you guys do any private residences? If someone called you up and said, once again, ghost hunters would do things where like someone would call them up and say, my daughter is afraid of what we believe is a spirit or something. Is that something you guys would do, or you try to shy away from it?
We have taken on a couple cases particularly recently, that involved someone being frightened by a spirit. And we have, we have some members who have the ability to explain to people how energy works and are able to calm them down. Most of the time, we don't believe an investigation is needed for private residence cases. Like I mentioned before, a lot of these cases are not spirits, but rather medication, causing hallucinations, alcohol. Yeah. Huge thing as far as paranormal experiences go, or supposed paranormal experiences.
A lot of New Year's Eve paranormal experiences.
But we do conduct investigations of residential properties if there's a history associated with it. Like, for instance, we have 2 private residence investigations coming up in June. And these homes go back to the 1700s, and there's actually ties to the Revolutionary War for these homes. Okay. So we're going to talk to the homeowners, get a little bit of background on the home, on the families who used to live there, and we'll use that information to, for the base of conducting our investigation. Okay.
So if you have a kid out there who wants to start getting involved in this, what do you recommend for them? Just because there's kids out there who are interested in this, probably don't know how to get involved. I mean, how would you recommend a kid start?
I would say start at a. I would not recommend a cemetery. That's very dangerous. You don't know what you're dealing with in a cemetery. I just got contacted by someone actually who went to a cemetery with his wife because they love ghost hunters also, and they wanted to start investigating, and they brought something home with them. And
they brought like a spirit home with them?
Yeah, spirit followed them home, and they're both young people. They've been sick now.
Hold on. Spirits can is something that commonly happens? Spirits can follow people home?
It has been known to happen.
Oh,
If you're not safe and you don't know what you're doing, if you treat the whole paranormal experience as a joke
Okay.
and taunt and provoke, yeah, you can negativity into your
Interesting.
life. Yeah. But going back to how to get started, you don't need expensive equipment. We've captured evidence just using camera phones.
Mm-hmm.
So take your camera phone, buy a cheap audio recorder, go to a friend's home, or a relative's home if they feel they may have something in their home. Ask respectfully. It's all about respect. Is there anybody here? Just the basic questions that, they may have seen on TV. Is there anybody here? We'd like to talk to you. Tell us your name. Just the simple stuff. As you get better and you get more accustomed to investigating, you can ask more deeper questions.
Mm-hmm.
But
basically just go out there and start filming and start recording.
yeah, and see what you capture. And if you do get a response of a name, well, then go back again and say, hey, I heard your name is so and so. Please tell us a little about yourself, and try to open this dialogue back and forth. I know it sounds funny, but it can be done.
Okay. Where do you want this group to be in 5 years?
I just, we all love investigating. We love history. We're very happy being where we are right now, working with historical organizations all across the state and out of state. So if we can just continue this, and just keep these investigations coming and keep doing presentations and informing and educating people through these presentations, I mean, we'll be happy.
Just keep on rocking and living the dream.
Keep on rocking. That's right.
Well, I think what you guys do is, I'm fascinated in ghosts. I'm fascinated in the unexplained. I think that kind of stuff is really interesting. And I think it's really cool that there is a group like you guys in Connecticut. And that's why I wanted to have you guys on. I don't think people know there's this kind of stuff in Connecticut.
Oh,
so it's really interesting.
Well,
give people your Facebook, Twitter, website, all that fun stuff.
Yeah, the website is northeastparanormal.org. And on the website, in the bottom right corner, there's a link to our Facebook and our Twitter account.
Okay. And if anyone was interested in an investigation, they can contact you on there. And
yeah, just go to the website, scroll over the Contact Us tab, and all the information will drop down.
All right. Well, thanks for doing this, Adam. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Ken.
All
It's
right.
a pleasure.
And there you go. There you have it. Thanks again to Adam for sitting down. Had a great time talking to him. Be sure to check out the NPIS website at northeastparanormal.org. Be sure to follow them on Twitter at NEastParanormal. They're also on Facebook. If you search Northeast Paranormal, I'm sure you're going to find them. They've got presentations going on throughout the state all summer long. Go meet them, say hello, learn stuff about the paranormal. It's good stuff. They're good people. And that's it. That is the show for this week. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope it made your Thursday go by just a little bit quicker. And I am Ken Tuccio. You can follow me on Twitter at RhymesWithPen. And that's it. That's the show. This has been Welcome to Connecticut.